Hindu mythology is full of many gods, goddesses, amazing beings, magical places, special objects, and powerful technologies. These stories are filled with ideas about creation and destruction. You can find gods riding animals in the sky and ancient machines that supposedly flew through the air. These myths carry a sense of cosmic power and mystery. One interesting idea in these stories is about divine technology. Ancient texts like the Mahabharata and Ramayana mention spiritual weapons called astras that can destroy armies or protect good people. Whether these weapons are used for good or bad depends on the user's intentions. Among all these mythic beings, the Nagas, or serpent people, stand out. They are partly divine and partly snake-like. The Nagas appear in many Hindu stories and traditions. They are linked to water, fertility, and protection. Sometimes they are scary, other times they are respected. Elizabeth C. Hackett wrote about how they guard treasures and hold secret wisdom. The Encyclopedia of Hinduism says Nagas watch over underground worlds. They have a dual nature. Just like snakes can be both dangerous and wise. Joseph Campbell called the serpent a universal symbol representing wisdom, danger, fertility, and change. The respect for serpent-like beings is not just found in India. It appears all over the world and throughout history as a common symbol of power, prophecy, and change. From ancient Indian temples to mountain rituals in the Andes, from Mesoamerican pyramids to Chinese dragon stories, serpents are seen as carriers of divine knowledge and cosmic energy. In South America, the Andean Amaru is a winged serpent that comes from mountains or deep lakes. It is important in Inca and earlier cultures. As Lewis Spence wrote, the Amaru represents the earth's fertility and the secrets of the underworld. John V. Murrah also explains that these serpent gods were linked to farming and the cycles of the sky. In Mesoamerica, the idea of the serpent is most famous with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent worshipped by the Toltecs and Aztecs. He was both a god and a cultural hero, symbolizing wind, wisdom, fertility, and the beginning of civilization. The Florentine Codex says Quetzalcoatl was a divine teacher who gave knowledge to humans, similar to the Nagas in India. Scholar John Beerhorst called him a serpent of sky and mind, a symbol of the highest order. Even the ancient Egyptians included serpents in their sacred beliefs. Though the word Jedi is rare, snakes were very important in their worldview. The cobra goddess Wadjet, shown on pharaohs' heads, stood for divine power and protection. A. Wallace Budge said serpents in Egyptian religion were connected with eternal life and renewal. Geraldine Pinch also described serpents as sacred protectors, linking different worlds. In China, the dragon, called Lung, is a heavenly force connected to rain, rivers, and the emperor's power. Unlike scary European dragons, Chinese dragons bring good luck, strength, and wisdom. The classic of mountains and seas says dragons fly between heaven and earth, keeping cosmic balance. Li Hui Yang writes that dragons symbolize the emperor's divine right to rule, wisdom shown in dragon form. Even in ancient Britain, serpents were important symbols. The adder, the only poisonous snake in the British Isles, played a role in Celtic and Anglo-Saxon myths. It stood for both danger and secret natural knowledge. Catherine Briggs's British Folk Tales and Legends tells how adders guarded sacred places and magical wisdom. James Fraser, in The Symbolism of the Serpent, connects these ideas to old Indo-European beliefs that saw snakes as creatures between worlds. Across many cultures, these serpents of wisdom were not just animals or symbols, they were seen as aware, sacred beings. They acted as prophets, messengers, and guides, keepers of hidden knowledge, helpers of heroes, and guardians of mysteries. Mircea Eliade, in shamanism, archaic techniques of ecstasy, calls serpents common shamanic symbols linked to personal transformation and cosmic journeys. So, everywhere in the world, there is a shared story. A serpent who speaks, teaches, and protects something ancient and secret. Legends worldwide describe serpent beings not just as symbols, but as intelligent, shape-shifting creatures. In Hindu stories, the Nagas can change between snake and human forms and live in hidden underground places. Wade Davis, in The Serpent and the Rainbow, talks about Haitian Vodou beliefs where serpent spirits represent wisdom, renewal, and the border between life and death. Lewis Herbert Gray's writings also mention the Nagas' ability to change shape and their underground cities, ruling forgotten times and places. Theosophical teachings add the idea of Agartha, a secret underground place where enlightened beings keep ancient wisdom hidden from the surface world. Early 20th century books like Willis George Emerson's Agartha, The Subterranean World, made these stories popular. Later researchers described these cities as centers of spiritual knowledge and ancient technology. J.R. Church said these underground cities hold secret wisdom, guarded by serpentine protectors. Even though serpent beings have mostly withdrawn from human life, they have not vanished completely. Myths and strange stories say they still appear sometimes, in visions, rituals, or rare real encounters. The Mahabharata tells of humans meeting Nagas, often in dangerous or sacred moments. Native American stories say serpent spirits visit dreams or storms to give warnings, knowledge, or transformation. Modern stories reflect this idea in new forms. Reports of reptilian humanoids and other non-human beings meeting people, sometimes in visions and sometimes in mysterious sightings, have been explored by writers like David Icke. Though controversial, these may be modern versions of ancient dragon gods. Guided by these beings, many cultures developed what could be called dragon civilizations, societies known for building pyramids, using serpent symbols, and having spiritual kings. The Maya and Aztecs worshipped feathered serpents, who were both gods and builders of stone temples aligned with stars. Egyptians decorated pyramids with symbols of the cobra goddess Wadjet, linking royal power to serpent protection. In China, dragons symbolized the emperor's heavenly right to rule and the sacred layout of cities. These civilizations, though separated by oceans and centuries, show similar patterns: pyramids, complex astronomy, and serpent gods as rulers. Researchers like Robert Boulay have pointed out these connections show a shared symbolic language of serpents, stone, and stars across the world. The dragon kings, whether ruling from temples, palaces, or seas, represented this ancient order. In Chinese stories, they ruled rivers and oceans from crystal palaces underwater. In Mesoamerica, serpent priests held both spiritual and political power. Karl Tauber, in The Serpent and the Eagle, explains that these leaders connected heaven and earth and carried the wisdom of their serpent gods. What this shows is a lost heritage, an ancient worldwide tradition where serpents were not just sacred symbols, but central to the very foundations of civilization. As mentioned, in old myths, the Nagas are said to live in hidden kingdoms deep under the earth. These underground worlds, described in sacred Hindu texts, are seen as real places, bright, secret, and unreachable by ordinary people. The most famous of these is Patala, mentioned in the Vishnu Purana, where the Nagas rule from jeweled palaces and guard great spiritual and cosmic treasures. Some thinkers, like Arthur Avalon, Sir John Woodroffe, believe these cities represent spiritual states inside a person, connected to the energy called Kundalini. According to Vetam Mani's Puranic Encyclopedia, Patala is one of the 7 lower worlds in a universe made of different levels going up and down. In these lower worlds, time moves differently and consciousness changes. Bhogavati, the capital city of the Nagas, shines with gems and crystal towers hidden from normal sight. The Mahabharata describes it as guarded by serpent kings and home to powerful and beautiful beings who are neither fully gods nor fully mortal. These mystical places are not just symbols of spiritual ideas. Many traditions believe they are real, hidden places sealed off from the world above. Heinrich Simmer, in Myths and Symbols in Indian Art and Civilization, explains that Patala and Bhogavati exist between myth and deeper spiritual meaning, representing secret wisdom, initiation, and inner transformation. The word Naga itself means serpent in Sanskrit, often referring to the cobra, whose hood spreading wide symbolizes cosmic energy awakening. The Monier-Williams Sanskrit-English Dictionary explains this, and Anna Dalla-Piccola's Dictionary of Hindu Lore and Legend confirms the cobra's key role in Naga images. Christopher John Fuller, in The Serpent in Hindu Iconography, says, "The cobra's hood represents the Nagas' mystical powers and their link to cosmic energy." Nagas are not just myths, they are connected to the land and its memories. In Varanasi, a holy city in India, people say there is a secret passage from the well of Sheshna leading into Patala. Known as Sheshna Kund, the well is believed by locals to be a gateway to the Naga world below. Though not mentioned in many scriptures, such stories have been passed down by word of mouth for centuries. Diana L. Eck notes in Varanasi, the sacred city, how these beliefs still shape the city's spiritual life. At the center of Naga belief is Shesha, the king of all Nagas, a giant serpent whose endless coils hold the earth and serve as the resting place for the god Vishnu. The Bhagavata Purana and Vishnu Purana describe Shesha as carrying the weight of the universe, steady and eternal even as worlds rise and fall. Judith M. Brown, in The Living Goddess, explains how these ideas survive not only in texts, but through rituals, sacred places, and stories told at temples and river shrines. For many, the Nagas have not disappeared. They are just hidden. Their kingdoms still exist, just beyond what we can see, beneath our feet and behind the illusions of everyday life. Stories about secret entrances to the Naga worlds are not just myths. They connect to real places where folklore meets the land. One such story comes from the city of Varanasi, where snake myths and sacred spots come together. According to herpetologist Sherman A. Minton, in his 1974 book, Venomous Reptiles, there is a mysterious place with 40 stone steps leading down into a sunken round chamber. At the bottom is a sealed stone door covered with carved cobras standing guard. While this story mixes science and folklore and hasn't been proven by archaeology, it has survived through many generations of storytellers, pilgrims, and spiritual seekers. Minton's work combined knowledge of reptiles with their mythic importance in human culture, suggesting forgotten hidden doors. Writers like David Icke have also talked about such underground gates as leftovers from ancient serpent civilizations hidden from modern eyes. Similar stories spread beyond India into Tibet's high mountains. In the windswept peaks and monasteries, people tell of a great mystical shrine above ancient caves. These tunnels, they say, stretch under the Himalayas and connect distant parts of Asia, forming a huge hidden network underground. Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, in Tibetan yogas of dream and sleep, refers to such inner places, not as physical maps, but as layers of reality seen in visionary experiences. In Tibetan traditions, these realms are often described as inner holy places where knowledge, time, and shapes work differently. Helena Blavatsky's Secret Doctrine also mentions these underground sanctuaries, suggesting that under the earth is a deeper world of spiritual learning and timeless wisdom. Matthew Kapstein, in Mysticism in Tibet, says these beliefs focus more on spiritual understanding than on actual geography, where sacred space, mind, and myth are closely linked. Water is another kind of gateway. In serpent traditions from India to Southeast Asia, Nagas are closely connected to rivers, lakes, and wells. They live in underwater palaces and come out only when needed, to protect, teach, or punish. Alice Getty, in the Nagas, Serpent Cults of India, highlights this connection to water, describing Nagas as guardians of life-giving waters and sacred treasures. In many Indian villages, bodies of water are seen not just as sources of life, but as portals, spaces between worlds. David Haberman, in Sacred Waters, explains how the sacredness of rivers and springs is tied to serpent myths, a living tradition kept alive through ritual and respect. This symbolism also relates to fertility, rain, and nature's cycles. As W.J. Wilkins wrote in Hindu mythology, Nagas control important natural forces that support both the earth above and the worlds below. When they are honored, rain falls. When angered, drought or floods can happen. So, to understand Nagas is to understand a spiritual connection between serpents and water, the underworld and the universe, forever linked. In almost every story, whether from sacred texts, oral traditions, or spiritual ideas, the Nagas are described as a highly advanced race with great wisdom and mysterious powers. Hindu epics like the Mahabharata show them not just as snake-like creatures, but as partly divine beings with super strength, long life, and secret knowledge. Legends say the Nagas had not only spiritual wisdom, but also amazing technology. They flew in glowing vehicles called vimanas, which some say were like flying palaces. The Ramayana tells of the Pushpaka Vimana, a golden flying palace that could travel anywhere. Many scholars think these stories are symbols, but some alternative researchers believe they hint at real ancient technology lost to time. The Vaimanika Shastra, a Sanskrit text found in the early 1900s and credited to the sage Bharadvaja, describes ancient flying machines in detail. It talks about vimanas with complicated parts, special energy sources, and materials unknown today. Writers like David Hatcher Childress and Ernest L. Norman have studied these ideas, suggesting the vimanas were real crafts powered by crystals, magnets, or solar energy. The Nagas were also shown as having special bodies and spiritual powers. Ancient art sometimes shows them holding a shining gem called a mani, or wearing it on their forehead. These stones were believed to heal, protect, and give great energy. Alice Getty, in the Nagas, Serpent Cults of India, says Nagas are often seen as protectors of these powerful jewels full of knowledge. Connected to this is the idea of the third eye, or Ajna chakra, located between the eyebrows. In yoga and tantra, this chakra is the center of inner vision, giving psychic abilities and connection with the divine. Many Naga stories mention the third eye, symbolizing their ability to see hidden truths beyond the ordinary world. Hindu, Buddhist, and yogic teachings speak of the third eye, the Ajna chakra, as a doorway to inner worlds and higher realities. When opened, this inner eye lets us see past illusions and reach deeper awareness, uncovering truths invisible to our normal senses. C.W. Leadbeater in the Chakras and Gopi Krishna in Kundalini, the arousal of the inner energy, described the third eye as the center of intuition and psychic vision. Through it, yogis and seers access unseen realms and might even connect with beings like the Nagas, not by walking through stone doors, but by exploring the mind's inner pathways. The Yoga Sutras say, "The third eye opens the door to inner visions and higher knowledge." Today, many spiritual groups see the third eye as a symbol of enlightenment and mystical insight. In New Age thought, it's a gateway to dreamlike inner worlds filled with meaningful images. Writers like Liz Simpson and Samuel Sagan have written about its role in deep meditation and psychic awakening. Shirley MacLaine said, "Activating the third eye helps connect us with higher realms and subconscious insight. Despite their great wisdom, the Nagas remain hidden. They rarely appear to humans, choosing to stay in their secret realms." In epics like the Mahabharata, encounters with Nagas are rare and mysterious, with humans only seeing them by accident or during special moments. Their secrecy is sacred and has lasted thousands of years. Some traditions link the Nagas to another group of underground beings called Rakshasas, often called demons in English. Rakshasas are complex figures in Hindu stories, sometimes evil, sometimes noble, but always powerful. They appear in the Ramayana and Mahabharata as fierce warriors and shapeshifters, often fighting gods and humans. While different from Nagas, scholars like Wendy Doniger note similarities. Both live underground, have supernatural powers, and play unclear roles in the cosmic story. A. Sutherland, writing for Ancient Pages, points out how these figures appear in myths worldwide as watchers and teachers of early humans. While many mainstream historians see these stories as just symbols, alternative scholars and spiritual traditions believe the Serpent People were real, as either as a highly advanced species, a spiritual group, or both. The phrase, "Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves," from the Gospel of Matthew reflects this idea. It advises people to be clever like serpents, but gentle like doves, a mix of intelligence and kindness. Instead of being evil, the serpent here is a symbol of divine wisdom and careful awareness. Bible scholars in the New Interpreter's Bible agree, noting that serpents have long been linked to wisdom and spiritual insight. This idea isn't only in Christian texts. Around the world, serpents are connected to healing, spiritual growth, and cosmic knowledge. From India's Nagas to Mesoamerica's Quetzalcoatl, from the Andes' Amaru to East Asia's dragon sages, many cultures see serpents as teachers, not threats. Joseph Campbell in The Masks of God and Wade Davis in The Serpent and the Rainbow both describe serpents as sacred links between the visible and invisible, earth and heaven. In modern spiritual writings, these beings are called the serpents of wisdom. They are said to have walked among early humans, guiding and sharing knowledge about stars, the body, the earth, and the soul. Writers like John Lash, Serpent Wisdom, and M.A. Pinkham, The Return of the Serpents of Wisdom, believe this serpent group helped start the first civilizations by giving spiritual and scientific knowledge. Whether they were real beings from long ago or symbols of human potential, their influence is found in temples, holy books, and deep symbols. The serpent wraps around staffs and crowns, decorates ancient seals and altars, and appears in the dreams of shamans and wise people. As mentioned, across the world's ancient stories, there are tales of special beings who can change between human and snake forms. These serpent people are not scary monsters, but wise guardians, builders of hidden cities, and teachers who helped early human civilizations grow. In Indian traditions, the Nagas show this shape-shifting nature. Louis Herbert Gray, in The Mythology of All Races, explains how these beings moved between worlds, coming from underground to guide or challenge people. Stories of powerful reptilian shapeshifters are also part of spiritual and alternative traditions that speak of whole cities and civilizations built by these ancient beings under the earth. Though the serpent people have mostly withdrawn from the surface, stories of their rare appearances continue across time and cultures. Native American myths, collected by Richard Erdoes, tell of serpent spirits showing up in rituals or dreams to give warnings or gifts. Today, researchers like David Icke see these beings as real reptilian intelligences who influence human life behind the scenes. John Matthews, in Encounters with the Dragon, gathers many stories from around the world about such meetings. Whether these tales are symbolic or real, they show a deep truth. Meeting the serpent people changes a person forever. Under their guidance or direct teaching, some of the most mysterious ancient civilizations were built. These dragon cultures were known for giant monuments, serpent symbols, and spiritual leaders. In Mesoamerica, the feathered serpent gods, Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan, were not just gods, but priests, astronomers, and lawgivers. A. Pinkham, in The Return of the Serpents of Wisdom, calls them spiritual teachers and culture bearers for early Central America. Their influence is carved in stone temples and pyramids. The stepped pyramids of the Mayans and Aztecs, aligned with stars, showed serpent designs and honored gods who were part serpent and part human. Michael E. Smith and John Beerhorst explain that Quetzalcoatl brought civilization, teaching farming, astronomy, and good living. The Codex Chimalpopoca calls him the great teacher who brought civilization to the people. The influence of the dragon cultures spans many continents and thousands of years. Their symbols, serpents, and dragons are found in the buildings, stories, and spiritual systems of some of the world's oldest civilizations. From the jungles of Mesoamerica to the palaces of China, these creatures stood for sacred power, cosmic order, and wise leadership. These cultures kept the knowledge of the serpent people alive through their ceremonies, monuments, and beliefs. Joseph Campbell, in The Masks of God, pointed out how dragon and serpent myths have lasted across time and places because they represent a deep, ancient force which is both feared and respected. Colonel Alexandre Braguin, in his book The Shadow of Atlantis, gave a notable explanation. He said early American civilizations often represented the sun as a feathered serpent. Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, figures who stood for enlightenment, cosmic order, and the movement of the heavens. The Toltecs, Maya, and Aztecs saw these feathered serpents not just as gods, but as symbols of divine light, bringing knowledge from the sky to the earth. This sun serpent idea is clear in Mesoamerican art and city planning. Teotihuacan, called the City of the Plumed Serpent, is a great example. Its Temple of the Feathered Serpent has stone serpents on the walls, showing a culture that viewed the serpent as a sacred messenger between heaven and earth. K. Almir Red, in Handbook of Mesoamerican Mythology, explains that the plumed serpent connects earth and sky, combining physical and spiritual worlds. The Maya also kept this idea alive in Kukulkan, their flying serpent god. Michael D. Coe, in the Maya, says Kukulkan was not only a god of wind and wisdom, but also a teacher and leader who brought civilization. Esther Pastori's Teotihuacan. An experiment in living suggests serpent symbols in public places reflected the culture's sacred beliefs and social order. The Nahuatl manuscript called the Codex Chimalpopoca tells the story of Quetzalcoatl as a divine teacher who lived with the people for 52 years, a sacred number in Mesoamerican calendars. During that time, he taught farming, astronomy, ethics, and rituals. John Beerhorst's translation shows how deeply the people honored him as both king and priest, both human and divine. Miguel León Portilla, in Aztec Thought and Culture, says Quetzalcoatl's rule was a golden age where spiritual and civic life were united. His leaving Tula, described by Diego Duran in the History of the Indies of New Spain, wasn't just a farewell. It was a prophecy with cosmic meaning. People believed he would return to bring harmony again. Karl Taube, in Tula, the Toltec capital, notes that Tula stayed sacred, forever linked to the plumed serpent legend. The hope for Quetzalcoatl's return became a key part of Aztec beliefs. Henry Dobbins, in The Return of Quetzalcoatl, explains how this idea shaped centuries of rituals and resistance. From ancient Greece to Mesoamerica, the serpent has been honored not just as a symbol of wisdom, but also as a healer and guide of the cosmos. One important place was the city of Pergamum, now called Bergama, in Turkey, where serpents were sacred symbols of renewal and protection. At the Asclepion, a famous healing temple dedicated to the god Asclepius, live snakes moved freely and were seen as part of the healing process. People came there hoping for cures, dreams and visions, believing the serpent helped their recovery. Lisa Maurizio, in The Healing Gods of Ancient Greece, explains that the serpent was more than an animal. It symbolized healing energy and was linked to the staff of Asclepius, a symbol still used in medicine today. Walter Burkert, in Greek Religion, says that in Pergamum, the serpent stood for healing power and divine protection, connecting earth, body, and the sacred. This connection between serpents, healing, and divine knowledge is also strong in Mesoamerican stories, especially with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. Quetzalcoatl was not only a giver of knowledge, but also a healer. He was famous for curing blindness and skin diseases. Kenneth Hirth's Healing and Medicine in Ancient Mesoamerica and Emiliano Perez's Aztec Medicine explain that vision, both physical and spiritual, was very important in Mesoamerican healing, and the serpent was deeply connected to sight and insight. Quetzalcoatl symbolized this healing vision. He also taught people to live wisely and kindly, promoting peace, respect, and good living. Elizabeth Hill Boone, in The Aztec World, says Quetzalcoatl stressed moral behavior and peace. Myths say he told people to treat each other well and build a respectful society. Inspired by him, the Toltecs built great temples, like the Pyramid of Quetzalcoatl in Tula, studied by Karl Taube in Tula, the Toltec capital. Some stories call him the White God, a mysterious figure sometimes described as light-skinned or bearded. This image became important during the Spanish conquest. William Denevan, in White Gods, the Europeanization of the Americas, shows how these stories were used by both natives and Europeans, shaping their beliefs. Today, the hope of Quetzalcoatl's return continues. Henry Dobbins, in The Return of Quetzalcoatl, explains that prophecies about his coming back still exist, often connected to themes of renewal and apocalypse. When Hernán Cortés arrived, the Aztec Emperor Moctezuma believed he might be Quetzalcoatl returning, a tragic misunderstanding. Some modern writers, like John Lash, think this return is bigger than Earth. It could mean a cosmic awakening, where Quetzalcoatl's wisdom spreads to all planets, symbolizing universal spiritual growth. On the island of Crete, serpent symbols appear in religious art, often alongside birds like geese, which symbolizes fertility and creation in Egyptian culture. One image shows the Egyptian goddess Hathor with serpents and geese, combining the ideas of motherhood and renewal. Hathor, mother of Horus and protector of divine motherhood, was linked to the sky, love, and protection. She was often shown with cow features and surrounded by serpents, symbols of rebirth and divine watchfulness. Geraldine Pinch, in Egyptian mythology, explains that serpents, especially the cobra, Uraeus, symbolized royal power and protection. Richard H. Wilkinson notes that geese, connected to Geb, the earth god, add the meaning of fertility rising from the earth. Similar ideas appear far to the east in ancient Sumer. Serpent beings like Ningishzida, a god linked to trees and snakes, represented knowledge, life force, and access to hidden worlds. Thorkild Jacobson's The Harps, that once describes these Sumerian serpents as messengers between earth and the divine. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the serpent steals the plant of immortality, reminding humans about life's sacred cycles. In North America, many Native American cultures also honor the serpent as a symbol of vision, earth energy, and fertility. The Hopi, Navajo, and Cherokee include serpents in dances, carvings, and stories as protectors and agents of change. Ralph W. Dexter's snake symbolism in native North America shows their connection to water and renewal, echoing ideas found far away. In Arizona's desert, the ancient Hohokam people left a strong serpent legacy. Their center, called Snaketown, thrived from about 400 BCE to 1200 CE. Serpent designs appear on pottery and buildings, symbolizing the vital link between water, fertility, and life. Emil W. Horry's The Hohokam Millennium explains how the community built irrigation canals that wound like serpents through the dry land. L. Sprague de Camp, in Ancient Engineers, says these canals were like symbolic snakes, bringing life to a desert civilization. Further south, the serpent takes on cosmic meaning in Haitian Vodou. The creator god Damballa Wado is seen as a great rainbow serpent who made the heavens and earth. Kind and sacred, Damballa is the source of life. Karen McCarthy, Brown's Mama Lola, and Claudine Michel's Vodou in Haitian Life and Culture show how Damballa is honored with water, white cloth, and eggs, symbols of purity and new life. Mambo Vaiazo Kamandi in Haitian Vodou. An introduction says, Damballa is the serpent of creation, the giver of life and wisdom. One story tells how Damballa released the first waters to flood the world, cleansing and renewing it. From this flood, a rainbow rose. Damballa's bride, Aida Wado, the rainbow serpent goddess. Together, they symbolize life and fertility, joining heaven and earth, spirit and matter. Among the Pueblo peoples of the American Southwest, serpents are respected and honored, not feared. Serpents with feathers or horns are believed to live in the life-giving waters of springs and rivers, acting as protectors of fertility and rain. The Hopi, Zuni, and Santa Ana peoples include these serpents in their important rituals. For example, the Hopi snake dance calls for rain in late summer, creating a sacred connection between the sky and the earth. At Santa Ana Pueblo, priests still make offerings to water serpents living under irrigation canals, showing the close bond between farming and sacred life. Richard Erdoes and Alfonso Ortiz explain that the horned serpent and plumed serpent act as links between different worlds, symbols of change, flowing water, and sacred power. They appear in visions, carvings, and dances, helping bring life from the sky and wake the sleeping earth. Omar C. Stewart, in the Pueblo Indians, says that for these cultures, serpents are not evil symbols, but ones of life, abundance, and sacred flow. Across the ocean, the Aztecs created an impressive symbol of the serpent, a double-headed wooden serpent, decorated with turquoise, shells, and conch. This 15th-century artifact, now in the British Museum, represents balance. The two heads stand for opposing forces, creation and destruction, life and death, united by one body of cosmic energy. Elizabeth Hilboon sees this as a sacred image of Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent god who shaped the heavens and calendars. This serpent story is not only in the Americas. In Australia, Aboriginal peoples tell how the rainbow serpent from the Dreamtime created the land by carving rivers, lifting mountains, and shaping the people. This ancient being is shown in rock art, across deserts and cliffs, still remembered as the guardian of sacred places, fertility, and balance. Ainsley Roberts and Charles Mountford, in the Dreamtime, described the rainbow serpent as a being of dual nature, nurturing yet powerful, gentle yet fierce. W.E.H. Stanner, in The Dreaming, says the rainbow serpent is possibly one of the oldest symbols of spiritual awareness in the world. She represents both creation and destruction. Her path is the river, her voice the thunder. Some esoteric thinkers, like James Churchward and Ignatius Donnelly, link serpent worship to lost lands like Lemuria and Atlantis. They say these ancient people didn't see serpents as animals, but as wise, cosmic beings. Arthur Avalon, in The Serpent Power, views serpent worship as a universal language. Serpents symbolize Kundalini energy, ancient technology, and connections between worlds. From the sun-baked temples of Arizona to mythical underwater cities, from rain dances in New Mexico to the rainbow serpent in Australia, the serpent appears again and again. In India and Tibet, their home is Bhogavat, a jeweled city that shines with diamonds and precious stones. Descriptions of Bhogavat are so bright and magical that some modern thinkers wonder if it was not of this earth. Could this city be a gateway or spaceport for divine beings whose flying crafts once roared over the Himalayas? Writers like David Hatcher Childress compare Vimanas to alien spacecraft and think Bhogavat might be an interdimensional base or a lost tech sanctuary. Though this idea is speculative, these powerful myths can't be ignored.